There is a waterproofing liquid that seals any leak permanently. It costs $2 at any hardware store. It penetrates concrete, brick, and stone from the inside out. It does not peel. It does not crack. It does not fail. Survival shelters built with it in the 1940s are still completely bone dry today. Construction crews have used it on bridges, tunnels, and underground bunkers for over 100 years without a single structural leak. And right now, this liquid is banned in 11 states. Not because it is dangerous to use. Not because it fails. Because it works too well. A $2 solution to a $40 billion problem cannot be allowed to sit on hardware store shelves. So they classified it as a probable environmental hazard. They lobbied state governments to cut off civilian access. And they replaced it with expensive, watered-down alternatives costing $30 to $80 that have flooded shelves in the last 3 years. This is the story of coal tar sealant, the liquid that built America's infrastructure, waterproofed its wilderness shelters, and was deliberately buried. Welcome to the true wild camping forbidden $2 vault. If this kind of knowledge matters to you, subscribe and hit the bell. This is where we open the vaults that industry locked shut. In 1892, the city of Pittsburgh faced a crisis threatening to collapse its entire water system. Thousands of feet of underground pipes were actively leaking. The soil was completely saturated. The foundations were rotting through. A civil engineer named George Bartholomew proposed a solution the construction industry had quietly known since the 1850s. Coal tar, a thick black liquid byproduct of burning coal, used to waterproof wooden ships since before the Civil War. Bartholomew's crew painted every foundation wall with it. They sealed every pipe joint. They coated every tunnel wall. Within 6 months, every single leak had stopped. Not slowed. Not reduced. Gone permanently. The water system ran without a single infiltration problem for the next 47 years. By 1920, coal tar sealant was standard practice in every major American construction and infrastructure project without exception. The Panama Canal used it on every lock and chamber surface. The New York City subway used it on every tunnel wall. The Hoover Dam used it across its entire downstream face. Engineers called it the permanent solution to water intrusion. Not a patch. Not a temporary fix. A chemical permanent bond. A reaction that fused with porous materials beneath the surface and created a waterproof crystalline barrier from the inside out. Here is the science that makes it chemically irreplaceable, and why every wild camper and off-grid builder needs to understand this. Coal tar contains dense polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. When applied to concrete, brick, or stone, these compounds penetrate deep into the pores and react with moisture already present inside the material. They crystallize into a dense hydrophobic matrix within the wall itself. Water cannot pass through a crystallized internal surface, not under hydrostatic pressure, not after decades of exposure in the harshest outdoor environments. The barrier does not sit on top of the surface like paint. It becomes a permanent part of the molecular structure. That is the core difference between coal tar and everything else sold today. Modern sealants form a surface film that eventually peels, cracks, and fails. Coal tar forms a permanent internal structure that never does. This video is just the surface of what was buried from you. Inside the complete true wild camping forbidden $2 vault, I have collected everything the waterproofing industry has spent decades making sure you would never find on your own. Coal tar application guides with completely safe DIY methods for shelters, cabins, and foundations. Alternative sealants that perform in every restricted state. The exact products off-grid builders and construction crews use on their own properties, but never recommend to paying clients. Step-by-step infiltration diagnosis for every surface type you will encounter in the field. Over 10 detailed guides. No filler. Straight to what works. The link is in the description or scan the code on screen. But stay here. The vault is just getting started. By 1955, coal tar was universally available. Hardware stores sold it by the gallon for under $2. Farmers sealed grain silos with it. Homeowners sealed basements. Off-grid builders sealed root cellars and underground water storage. A single gallon waterproofed an entire foundation wall completely. Then 3 companies changed everything in 1961. Sika, W.R. Grace, and United States Gypsum filed jointly to petition the federal government for materials research funding. They called it an initiative for safer construction materials. What they actually built was a replacement market designed to eliminate coal tar. They introduced polymer-based sealants requiring licensed installers. They introduced crystalline membrane systems needing special tools. Each product required full reapplication every 3 to 7 years. If you made it this far, you know more about waterproofing than 99% of campers, homesteaders, and homeowners in this country. Subscribe and share this with someone fighting a leak and paying contractors every year to lose that same fight. Everything the industry buried is in the complete vault. Link in the description. Now stay with me. The next vault is the heaviest one yet. So why exactly is coal tar banned in 11 American states? Here is what the EPA report will never explain to you. In 1993, the EPA classified coal tar as a Group B2 probable human carcinogen, not based on any residential or outdoor application exposure data. Based entirely on studies of industrial workers breathing raw coal tar vapor 8 hours a day, every day, for 20 to 30 consecutive years inside enclosed factory plants. The exposure level of an industrial distillation worker inhaling concentrated fumes in a sealed facility is not comparable to an off-grid builder or homeowner applying a diluted sealant to an exterior foundation wall outdoors, once every decade. The science does not support treating these as equivalent. But the regulation does not require scientific equivalence. It only requires a hazard classification. And once the classification existed, the lobbying started. California banned residential coal tar use in 2001. Washington State followed with a complete ban in 2004. Minnesota, Wisconsin, and 7 additional states followed over the next 12 years. The waterproofing industry funded every single one of those state campaigns, not because they genuinely cared about the carcinogen study, but because they needed to eliminate the $2 competitor that consistently outperformed their $40 product lines. You cannot patent coal tar. It is a raw, industrial byproduct. You cannot make a version people need to repurchase yearly. You cannot build recurring revenue around something permanent that costs $2 per application and never needs redoing. So you regulate it out of civilian existence. You call that entire process environmental care. Here is exactly what you can do right now, whether you are sealing a shelter in the field, a basement at home, or an off-grid water storage tank. Step 1. Identify your leak source before applying anything. Touch the wet surface after heavy rain and note the timing. If water appears within 2 hours, you have active infiltration. If it appears after 24 hours, it is slow absorption through the material. Both are fully solved by coal tar in the 39 legal states. Step 2. If you are in a restricted state, the closest performing legal alternative is sodium silicate. Available online for under $3 per liter delivered. It penetrates porous materials and crystallizes inside them. This is the exact method the military used during World War II to seal field bunkers and forward water storage tanks in combat zones. Step 3. Clean the surface completely before any application. Remove all existing sealant, paint, and mineral deposits. The compound needs direct raw material contact to penetrate properly. Step 4. Apply in 2 coats for maximum penetration depth. First coat thin, pressed firmly into the surface with a stiff brush. Wait 4 full hours. Second coat heavier, covering all remaining open pores. Step 5. Do not apply below 40 degrees Fahrenheit ambient temperature. The crystallization process requires ambient heat to bond fully. 1 gallon treats approximately 50 square feet of surface. A typical basement wall or shelter foundation costs under $8 to seal completely. A licensed contractor charges between $800 and $3,000 for that exact same square footage. The material difference between both outcomes is $2. The knowledge difference is exactly what you just watched. This knowledge did not disappear naturally over the decades. It was buried under $40 billion of lobbying, regulatory capture, and engineered obsolescence, designed to keep you dependent on products that need replacing and contractors who need rehiring. The bridges sealed with coal tar in the 1930s are still standing. The tunnels coated in 1940 are still bone dry inside while carrying millions of gallons of water above them every single day. The product still exists and is completely legal in 39 states. The knowledge of how and where to use it was simply made inconvenient to find. At True Wild Camping, inconvenient to find is exactly what we go after. If this vault opened something for you, subscribe and share it. Every share preserves what the industry worked hard to erase. The link is in the description or scan the code on your screen. The next vault opens soon. What is inside is even heavier.